Adolf Hitler, a name synonymous with tyranny, war, and genocide. How did this Austrian-born painter rise to absolute power in Germany, leading the world into unprecedented chaos? This is the story of his ascent and ultimate downfall. Born on April 20th, 1889, in Braunau am Inn, Austria, Adolf Hitler was the fourth of 6 children to Alois and Clara Hitler. His early life was marked by strict discipline from his father and deep affection from his mother. In 1907, Hitler moved to Vienna, aspiring to become an artist. Rejected twice by the Academy of Fine Arts, he faced poverty and developed a deep-seated resentment towards those he blamed for his misfortunes. The outbreak of World War I in 1914 provided Hitler with a sense of purpose. Serving as a corporal in the Bavarian army, he found camaraderie and a cause. The war's end in 1918, with Germany's defeat, left him feeling betrayed and directionless. Post-war Germany was a nation in turmoil. In 1919, Hitler joined the German Workers' Party, quickly rising to prominence with his oratory skills. By 1920, it was renamed the National Socialist German Workers' Party, the Nazi Party. Hitler's vision for the party included a new symbol, the swastika, and a platform promoting German nationalism, anti-Semitism, and anti-communism. In 1923, emboldened by growing support, Hitler attempted a coup, the Beer Hall Putsch, to overthrow the Weimar government. The failed coup led to his arrest and a 9-month imprisonment. During his incarceration, he authored Mein Kampf, outlining his ideology and future plans for Germany. The Great Depression of 1929 devastated Germany's economy, creating fertile ground for extremist ideologies. The Nazi Party capitalized on public discontent, becoming the largest party in the Reichstag by 1932. On January 30th, 1933, President Paul von Hindenburg appointed Hitler as Chancellor, believing he could be controlled within the existing political framework.
Der kostbarste Besitz auf dieser Welt aber ist das eigene Volk. Und für dieses Volk und dieses Volk wollen wir ringen und wollen wir kämpfen und niemals erlahmen und niemals ermüden und niemals verzagen und niemals verzagen.
The Reichstag fire in February 1933 was a pivotal moment. Exploiting the crisis, Hitler enacted the Reichstag Fire Decree, suspending civil liberties and targeting political adversaries. Subsequently, the Enabling Act granted him dictatorial powers, effectively dismantling the Weimar Republic's democracy. To consolidate his power further, Hitler initiated the Night of the Long Knives in 1934, purging the SA's leadership and other political adversaries, thereby securing the loyalty of the military and eliminating threats to his authority. Following President Hindenburg's death in August 1934, Hitler merged the positions of Chancellor and President, declaring himself Führer. The Third Reich had begun, with Hitler at its helm. Hitler's expansionist policies led to the remilitarization of the Rhineland, the annexation of Austria, and the invasion of Poland in 1939, triggering World War II. With absolute power secured, Hitler set his sights beyond Germany's borders. His ambitions for a greater German empire, Lebensraum, or living space, would plunge the world into its deadliest conflict. In 1936, Hitler boldly reoccupied the Rhineland, a demilitarized zone since World War I. France and Britain, eager to avoid another war, did nothing. Encouraged by their inaction, Hitler pressed forward. In 1938, Hitler orchestrated the Anschluss, the annexation of Austria, claiming it as part of Greater Germany. With no resistance, he turned his eyes to Czechoslovakia. At the infamous Munich Conference, Britain and France, under Chamberlain's policy of appeasement, handed Hitler the Sudetenland, believing it would satisfy his expansionist hunger. But Hitler had no intention of stopping. In August 1939, Hitler shocked the world by signing a non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union. the two nations secretly agreed to divide Poland, a move that would trigger the most devastating war in history. On September 1, 1939, Germany invaded Poland with Blitzkrieg, lightning war. Within weeks, Poland was crushed. Britain and France, realizing Hitler could not be contained, finally declared war on Germany, 1940 to 1941. Over the next year, Hitler's forces steamrolled through Europe. Denmark and Norway fell. The Netherlands, Belgium, and France collapsed in mere weeks. In June 1940, Hitler stood victorious in Paris, his empire at its peak. But in the Battle of Britain, Hitler faced his first major setback. The British Royal Air Force, under Winston Churchill's leadership, defied the Luftwaffe, preventing Germany from launching an invasion. The fatal mistake, invasion of the Soviet Union, 1941 to 1942. On June 22, 1941, Hitler broke his pact with Stalin and launched Operation Barbarossa, the largest invasion in history. Initially, German forces advanced rapidly, but the vast Russian winter and fierce Soviet resistance turned the tide. The brutal Battle of Stalingrad in 1942-43 marked the turning point. The once invincible German army was now on the defensive. The Global War and America's entry, 1941-1944. In December 1941, Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, bringing the United States into the war. Hitler, confident of victory, declared war on the U.S., unknowingly sealing his fate. By 1944, the Allies launched D-Day, reclaiming France and pushing toward Germany. Meanwhile, the Soviets crushed the Nazi forces on the Eastern Front. Hitler's final days, April 28 to 29, 1945. Inside the Führer bunker, Hitler was no longer the dictator who once commanded vast armies. He was a broken man, paranoid, trembling, his hands shaking from stress and illness. He raged against his generals, accusing them of betrayal. But deep inside, he knew the war was lost. On April 29th, Hitler made his final official act, not as a leader, but as a husband. He married his longtime companion, Eva Braun, in a brief and somber ceremony. As Soviet artillery shook the bunker walls, the newlyweds toasted with champagne, knowing it was their last night alive. The end of Adolf Hitler, April 30th, 1945. On April 30th, as Soviet troops reached the heart of Berlin, Hitler made his decision. He refused to be captured. He would not allow himself to be paraded as a prisoner. Instead, he chose death. At 3:30 p.m., Eva Braun bit into a cyanide capsule. Moments later, Adolf Hitler placed a pistol to his head and pulled the trigger. The dictator who once terrorized the world was dead. The aftermath, the final destruction of the Third Reich. Following Hitler's orders, his aides wrapped his body in a blanket, carried it outside the bunker, and doused it in gasoline. In the courtyard of the Reich Chancellery, the flames consumed the last remnants of the Führer. The man who had sought to reshape the world in his image was reduced to ashes. Hours later, the Soviets stormed the Führer bunker, but Hitler was gone. His body, unrecognizable, was buried in the rubble of his own empire. The Third Reich had died with him. The legacy of Hitler's death. With Hitler's death, Nazi Germany collapsed. On May 7th, Germany surrendered unconditionally. The world had defeated the dictator, but the scars of his rule would never fade. His crimes, his war, and his twisted ideology left a stain on history, a warning of what happens when power, hatred, and ambition go unchecked. Adolf Hitler's reign ended in fire and despair, but his death marked the beginning of a new world, one built on the lessons of the past to ensure that tyranny never rises again. The death of Adolf Hitler marked the end of an era of destruction, but his impact on history remains one of the most discussed and debated topics of all time. His rise to power, his catastrophic decisions, and his downfall continue to serve as a lesson for future generations. But what do you think? Could Hitler have won the war if he had made different strategic choices? Was his downfall inevitable, or could history have taken another path? How do you think the world would be different today if the Third Reich had survived longer? If you found this deep dive into history fascinating, make sure to subscribe to Kingdom Tales for more gripping stories from the past. Hit the like button if you believe history should never be forgotten, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our latest episodes.